All right, my people. Today, I have a special guest with me. I think we're technically related through
Yes, technically.
technically related through marriage. He
Always been
is
family though.
always been family. I've known him
Yeah,
since shoot 9 years old when we first moved to
around
Tucson.
yeah, around there. Long
But
time, man.
my sister Shiggy married your uncle, which is crazy to say
Yes,
because you got
it's
what do
weird.
you got? What do you guys like 6 years apart?
6
5
years
years?
apart. Yeah,
6 years
but
apart.
I've never once called him uncle ever, and
Yeah.
I don't plan to anytime soon. So
Yeah, never. So I have the one and only Daniel Lopez with me, and I've been trying to get him on for a while. It's just timing and everything. I'm 3 hours ahead, and so it's tough to schedule everything with my Tucson people, trying to figure everything out because 6 o'clock with me winding down, uh, you know, going to bed when I want to schedule an interview, they're still at work. So,
yeah, that's
and
how it
so
works.
that's how it works. And so, it's just one of those things. But I'm excited for what we're going to talk about. So, Danny, I'll just let you introduce yourself. Tell my people who you is, bro.
Yeah, man. Well, first of all, thanks so much for having me, man. It's always a pleasure speaking to you
Yeah.
guys. And like you said, the I'm sure the time difference is tough, especially with sports, and you have to stay up late and watch a game. So I appreciate the time.
Uh,
But
that's exactly right, dude. Watching football late at night. Oh,
oh no, it's a hassle, I'm sure. But like you said, man, my name is Daniel Lopez. I'm 25 years old. Born and raised in Tucson, Arizona, a place where you have to put on sunscreen and put up Christmas lights. It's tough. It's tough. The struggle is real, but yeah, man, I'm a born again Christian. I try to be a loving father and I try to be a loving husband. So yeah, man, I'm blessed and saved by grace, man.
hey, you're doing a great job, bro. So you're newly married.
Yes, we're gonna be celebrating a year on the 24th of October. It flew by like
Sheesh,
that.
bro.
It's super
What?
cliche. Super cliche. They always say, "Oh, it always flies past." Oh no, it did for sure.
It really does feel like that because I remember I wasn't able to get the time off, but Shiggy and Leonard they went out to your wedding, of course, and
Exactly.
that really does feel like just last
Like
month.
yeah, 100%.
Like, cause
Yeah,
yes.
it's crazy, man.
So
Yeah,
how
time flies when you're having fun.
newly married, new father,
Yep.
bro. How you dealing with all that?
Dude, the dad life is I've done some cool things in my life. Don't get me wrong. I've done some really cool things. Nothing beats being a dad. Nothing.
Yeah.
I've done some cool stuff. I've jumped out of a plane. I've snowboarded some cool spots. I've been in some crazy fights in the ring before, and nothing. And I've lost some. I've won some big ones, and nothing is more rewarding than holding my boy for sure.
I love that. And your son's name is Austin, right?
Emra Austin Lopez.
But
Yep.
you call him Austin.
Yeah, we call him
Okay.
Austin. Emra came from one of my best friends. You actually knew him. His
Yeah.
name was Danny Diaz. And yeah, he was one of my best friends, man. And unfortunately, actually, I yeah, he did leave us a little early, but he went to be with Jesus right on time. So
Yeah, so that's pretty amazing that you were able to name him after Danny and you know, keep that legacy going. Emma is a cool
yeah,
name though. Emma's
yeah, I thought it was cool. It's better
yeah.
than like Juan Carlos or something from Tucson. So
Oh,
yeah.
I think I have a cousin named Juan Carlos.
Someone, all right. There's always someone. There's always someone. But yeah, man. Being his dad is not. There's nothing more challenging, man. Because when you think about it, it's like this kid. He's looking at you. He's not. It's
Yeah.
not just about what How can I have fun? How can I get through life? It's like no. How can he get through life? How can he get through this whole thing in one piece? So when it's all on your shoulders, it's a huge challenge. But man, there's nothing more there's nothing that you welcome more than being a dad for sure.
Yeah. And you seem to be one of those guys that kind of like when something is thrown at you like a challenge or like someone says you won't, you're kind of just like, all right, let's
Yeah.
let's
Homa puro, homa
yeah,
puro.
yeah, yeah, let me tackle this challenge real quick. And
Yeah.
and so being a dad, I'm sure has probably been the biggest challenge. But you said I can't speak to that, but hopefully God willing one day. But you said you've done some pretty cool things, including fighting in the ring.
Yes,
And
yes.
I want to pick your brain about that. So where
Yeah,
do you
absolutely.
where do you work currently?
So I'm a premier trainer and I'm assistant coach for one of the gyms here in Tucson. It's called Boxing Incorporated. I started out as a member there about 6 years ago. And I wanted to, because I had boxed previously when I was about 13, 14. And so I joined the gym and I was like, this is something that it's kind of like the same. I thought it was the same thing like an LA Fitness or a Choose or a Planet Fitness or, something like that. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to try it out. I'm going to see what's going on. Little did I know that this was going to be my livelihood, how I provide for my family, how I operate, and just my whole life. So I joined and I was like, you know what? Like, this is something that I kind of really want to make a living from. So I decided to join the boxing team. When I joined the boxing team, I started competing. I got to compete all around the country, which is cool. But man, it just, if you would have told me 6 years ago that now I'd be a premier trainer and a coach of the boxing team here in Tucson, I probably would have called you crazy. So as of right now, that's what I wouldn't say I'm doing. I would say that's what I'm fortunate to do right now.
Yeah. That's
Mm.
pretty cool. You were able to take what you were doing previous and then move it into your employment. See, man,
Yeah,
I'm jealous of people like you, man. Like being
yeah.
able to like play a sport and like coach a sport for a living. Like I can do it, as on the side and as an assistant, but man, to be able, if I was a head coach of a team like getting paid, oh man, that'd
That's
be playing for money,
Oh
bro.
yeah,
That's
yeah, man.
that's the dream. That's tough.
It is, man. It's I'm super blessed. This weekend we just had two of our fighters win dominant performances, and it's cool because I'm sure you being a teacher, like you see how hard these kids work, and you see them day in day out, and then just when you see something go their way, you're like
Yeah.
yes. So it's a huge blessing for you. So yeah, that was us this weekend. We had one guy, he fights at 141 pounds, dominates his opponent all 3 rounds, and then our second guy, same, he fights at 145 pounds, just right up the alley, and he wins by knockout in a minute and 19 seconds. So
Dang.
it's one of these things where I was telling him, I was like, it's okay to celebrate for a little while, but like your next opponent is already training.
Mhm.
He's already getting ready for practice. He's already hanging up his belt. He's already planning to beat you. So this is something that, yeah, you can celebrate for this part of the day, but tomorrow it's like, we're getting back to work. So uh it's trying to explain that to someone who's on such a high horse and
Yeah.
on this cloud nine type mindset. It's tough, but it'll eventually pay off from there.
Yeah, and it's pretty cool, like, you're able to, transfer the excitement that you obviously had for yourself whenever you won to, like, being a
Yeah.
coach. Like, you don't miss a beat. Like, as a coach, you get
Mm.
just as excited,
Oh,
for your kids, for your students, for your players as, like, you were. I mean,
100%.
yeah, like, and it's like, it's pretty cool to have coaches like that in your life that are, like, 100% right behind you,
Yeah,
100% like in your
100%.
corner, literally in your corner
Mm.
in your
Yeah,
case.
yeah. Yeah. Seriously,
So
yeah.
yeah, so it's pretty awesome. But before we get to you, maybe some of your coaching life, what got you into boxing? So you said you were 13, 14. What kind
Yeah.
of like drew your attention to boxing when all the other kids are when we're playing football in the parking lot and playing basketball at rodeo park and
Yeah,
people are playing.
everything, yeah.
What was like attracting you to boxing?
Honestly, man, it wasn't anything that, well, okay, so I grew up watching Oscar De La Hoya, Fernando Vargas, man, Roy Jones Jr., all these guys growing up as a kid. But the reason why I started getting into boxing was because in school I was getting bullied a lot. So it
Mm,
wasn't anything where I was like, yeah, I had admired the sport, and I had admired the technical side, and how how extremely difficult it is. I always thought that was cool, but the reason why I had gotten into it is because I was getting bullied a lot at school. I was never the biggest, the baddest dude, and I'm still not, and I never will be. But the reason why I wanted to is just because I just want to learn how to defend myself and get out of the way if trouble ever came my way. Once I was able to do that, and learn how to defend myself and learn how to get out of certain situations that I would get into, I just fell in love with it. I fell in love with the idea you can always improve. I fell in love with the idea of there's always going to be someone bigger. There's always going to be someone better. I fell in love with the idea of training and staying in shape and learning more. I just became I literally became obsessed with it. So that's how I knew like boxing's for me, for sure.
I love that. And did so that's like a movie script right there. Like you're getting bullied.
I
It
wish.
sounds like Karate Kid, bro.
Oh man,
You're
in the
living
Karate
karate.
Kid, in the Karate Kid, he went starting trouble. I know, I
You
know.
know, yeah. Now, did you ever get confronted post learning how to box, like by people that were bullying you, and did you kind of
Yeah,
shut
man.
that down?
Yeah, a little bit. It was funny because I actually ran into one of my middle school bullies at one of the county fairs they have in Tucson called the Pima County Fair, and he saw me, and as soon as I saw him, I just like just locked eyes with him, and I was just like, oh, like this. I went, what's up, like that, and he came up to me. He's like, hey man, I just wanted to say sorry about everything, and like, and I was just like, dude, it's we're kids, man. I was 19 years old. I'm not gonna fight this dude while he's eating a candy apple, like,
Yeah,
in the middle of a county fair. I have a turkey leg in my hand. That's not how it works. But no, man, it was just funny because it was just because I kind of got scared. As soon as I saw him, I was like, because the last time I saw him, I saw him and I got beat up. So I was
yeah,
like, oh man, like I don't want this to happen again. But no, yeah, man. But honestly, like I said, it's the thing. One of the things that boxing has taught me is humility, man. There's always someone bigger. There's always someone better. And just because you're a tough dude in the ring doesn't mean that there's not a tougher dude out there.
yeah. And I love how your tone changed from like you were ready to fight to like, oh, we were just kids, bro. Like,
Yeah,
no worries,
that's how it
man.
was. Yeah.
Like, but two
Oh
seconds
man,
earlier, you were ready to throw down and
I'm
like
ready to
defend your honor.
throw hands, dude. Yeah, but then you realize you're just like, dude, I'm just not that guy anymore. And also at the same time, it's like I did things when I was 12, 13 years old that I'm not proud of. So it's like I can't hold it against this guy. But honestly, the way I think about it now, it's like, man, if it wasn't for him, I probably wouldn't be doing what I'm doing now. So
Bro, that can actually like lead down a different road and different topic in the sense of like bullying nowadays, where I don't
yeah, yeah,
I don't
yeah,
mean to like, you know, hound against like some political side or anything, but there is definitely, or just like, you know, paint a broad brush, but there is a definite like feeling in this generation where it's like not okay at all to ever be mean to someone, to bully someone or anything like that. And again, I'm not no advocate of bullying, of course, or
yeah, yeah.
violence or anything like that. But I'm like, sometimes, oh, I shouldn't say this. I'm gonna say it anyways. Some
Sometimes
kids
a
need to
kid's
just
got to
like
come in.
get spanked.
Oh yeah,
I'll say that. So
absolutely.
parents need. You could tell a kid just didn't get spanked when he was growing up,
Yeah,
and
but
sometimes you're.
also, yeah, but also sometimes the kids that need it the most are the bullies, if that makes sense.
No, that's exactly right. You know, and so it's just like you can't say anything,
Mm,
um but there is something to be said about overcoming a bully,
yeah,
overcoming people that have offended you in your life, overcoming
100%.
obstacles that are set in your way, because that's real life. You get out to
Yeah,
the workforce and hey, my coworker's bullying me, and your boss is just like, okay, get over it. He's
yeah,
the
suck it
best
up.
at what he does and you are the best at what you do. You better find a way to work it out.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
then what? Are you just gonna cry in a corner? No, you got to overcome it. And again, I'm not advocating for any bullies to be like, I'm going to teach this kid a lesson so he can overcome obstacles in his life.
Yeah,
No,
you
but
need to no.
yeah, but for
Yeah.
us to learn and grow from the way we are able to handle bullies,
Mm.
I think is really important.
Oh, 100%, man. And that's kind of how it taught me to kind of like, yeah, you're in a bad situation now, but we're gonna have to, 9 times out of 10, in order to overcome, you have to go through, and you can't just. There's no alternate exits. If there's a burning house, you can't just go out the side. Sometimes you have to go through the back door, and the only way to go to the back door is to get through the house, getting through whatever's going on. But no, yeah, I completely agree, man. 100%.
Yeah, I love that, man. And like you said, dude, you are where you are because
Yeah,
of you
yeah,
making a decision to push through it, to go through that,
yeah,
that hot
absolutely.
coal, that hot fire, and being sizzled a little bit. But man, you came out the other side. So, what
Yeah,
through your course of your career of boxing, what what transpired? So you start when you're 13, 14 years old. Are
yeah.
your
So
once you start getting serious, are your goals like, okay, I'm actually gonna like take this real serious and start, thinking about making money from it? Or are you still in the mindset of, okay, I'm just kind of learning still to defend myself type mentality? Like when did you start getting serious, I guess is my question.
yeah, I'd say around 18, 19, because obviously, from 14 to 17 years old, you're going through school, you're playing sports, you're hanging out with girls, whatever you got going on. And for the ones that really make it to the top, they're thinking about boxing all throughout those years. 14, 15, 16, boxing, 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 boxing. That was never really the case for me. For me, it was always stay in shape. It was always, to, get better. But I didn't really start taking it seriously till I was like 18 years old. When I was 18, I had I had joined the boxing team, and one of my coaches, still to this day, he's one of my head coaches. He talks to me. He's like, dude, you have the talent to do this. It's just a matter of whether you want it or not. And I did, dude. I wanted. I was like, you know what? Because in Tucson, we have, it's either the Air Force or you go to work, and there's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's nothing wrong with going to the Air Force or going to school or whatever you want to do. There's nothing wrong with that. I always
Yeah, of
wanted to
course.
do something outside of the box. I always wanted to do something that people are gonna be like, this dude is crazy. Like, oh my goodness, like how is he? Like why, but I knew that if I worked hard enough and if I believed in my skill the way I had at that point, I knew people were going to look at me and be like, wow, like he really took a chance and it seriously paid off for this dude. And I knew that it was going to, when I had wanted it at that time. So but yeah, I wanted to make a living from it, and I saw those opportunities. And thankfully I was around the right people to get me there. And a lot of times in this fight business, dude, it's you have guys who are literally trying to make money off you. And I get it, fighting's a business and boxing's a business, but at the same time, these guys just you're just a monkey in the circus sometimes. But luckily, I had coaches who always always put my safety first. They always put my well being first, and even like church sometimes first too. They'd be like, dude, I told them, I was like, listen, man, I'm a Christian. I'm not a perfect one, but I'm one who puts God before boxing,
Yeah.
and they always understood that, and they were I can't thank them enough for getting that. So yeah, dude, but I always wanted to make a living from it, and I always knew I could. It was a matter. Okay, so once it came time for me to turn professional, I had to have a serious conversation with myself and say, do you want it as bad as these guys that you're going to be going up against, as these guys that are in these national tournaments? Because I've gone to national tournaments. I've Gene Lewis and Arizona Golden Gloves. I was able to win those championships. I won Arizona Golden Gloves 2018, 2019, 2 years in a row. And it's like you have all these people around you, and they're saying, "Dang, you can do so good. You can do this. You can do that." And you buy into it, and you're like, yeah, that's this is great. This is what I want to do. But at the same time, you have to ask yourself, am I willing to literally give up everything and gamble it on this 1 in a million chance at a 1 in a million chance?
Mm,
Because that's literally what it is. It's the same thing in baseball. It's the same thing in football. It's the same thing. If anything, it's probably harder in those sports because it is so highly demanded. I'm not saying that boxing isn't, but in baseball, my goodness, if you make it to the league, you are a special person.
mm,
Special. Same thing in
yeah.
football. So it's it was one of these things where I had asked myself, do I want it more than these guys? And honestly, dude, the answer was no. I don't.
Yeah.
I don't want it more than these guys. I want to be and not that these guys that are at the pro level or the these guys making a living don't want these things, but it was more important for me to get an education. It was more important for me to get a good paying job and start a family. These things were a lot more important to me than a fighting career.
Mm,
But something that God as seriously provided was the ability to make all those things while still doing what I love to do. So that I'm very truly blessed for.
Man, that's great. So you so you won the, what'd you say, the back-to-back?
Yeah, I won Arizona Golden Gloves 2018, 2019. So it's a tournament that they have in Arizona every year. They actually didn't have one last year because of COVID. I believe they didn't have one. But yeah, I got to go to Las Vegas, and I got to fight someone from Washington. I fought for people from all over the country, Kansas City, California, everywhere. And
Dang.
yeah, dude, it was cool, man. I had some really good experiences. Things I'll never forget. Them paying for your trips and this and food and everything. It's a blast. Don't get me wrong, but man, you pay for it. You earn everything that you get for sure.
Yeah, no, I believe it. So your first, so you weren't able to, you decided not to turn
I
pro,
decided not
correct?
to turn pro.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So what was your first amateur fight? How did that go? Take me through your amateur years.
It's actually a funny story. So man, my first amateur fight was my first boxing amateur fight. I started MMA for a little while. I was like, yeah, it's not for me.
Did you
Boxing.
really? I didn't even know that.
Yeah. No, I did. Yeah. So I started doing MMA for a little bit. Once they started kicking and stuff, I was like, nah, I'm gonna just throw hands. That's what I know how to do best. So man, so my first amateur fight was at that same tournament that I was telling you at Gene Lewis. It's a national tournament every year in Mesa, Arizona. So I go, and it's this dude, and I'm like, I'm gonna smoke this guy. I'm gonna like, you're sizing him up, and you're like, his
Yeah,
scrawny
yeah.
arms. He obviously skips leg day, stuff like that, right? And you're like, so like, oh, I'm gonna smoke this dude the first round. I went all 3 rounds with this dude because I couldn't take him out. I was trying to,
Wow.
I was swinging for the fences, boom, 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 trying to get this guy. And what my head coach literally was screaming at me, what are you doing? No, that's not what I'm telling you to do. No, stop. So, dude, he was this close to just leaving me in the ring just without a coach because I was not listening. And I ended up winning the fight, but man, that was such a huge learning experience because I had to learn I can't do my own thing, man. You have to learn how to listen. You have to learn how to listen. So that
What
was
was what
probably
was he wanting you to do
he was just wanting
differently?
me to follow the game plan. And I
Uh,
wasn't. I just wanted to
oh,
knock his
okay.
head off. I just wanted to throw this big right hand that I have and just end the show and call it a night and go back to my hotel room. But that's what I wanted. But what he wanted me to do was to box the way that he taught me. And I
Okay.
completely threw that out the window. And it was a very heated moment at the time. But now it's a funny story because how far we've come and what we've accomplished since then. So now I say it's a funny story, but to him it wasn't a funny story at the time. It was
Yeah.
funny times, man.
Yeah. So you win that fight.
Mm.
Did you end up winning the tournament or?
So that year, I actually that year I actually went to the finals, and I lost in a split decision. So a split decision is when there's three judges, two judges give the fight to one guy, and then the other judge gives it to you. So I lost by split decision, meaning two judges gave it to him, one judge gave it to me. It was a very close fight, but just being real, he was just a better boxer. That's
Mhm.
that's just honest.
Now, do any of these guys, are they still boxing or anything like that?
Yeah,
Some of
yeah.
them?
There's a few of them that have gone in, to win national tournaments. The guy that I last lost to won the entire, Golden Gloves for our region. So
Wow.
he's a fantastic boxer, man. So the losses that I've had, luckily they weren't. Man, I thank God for not getting knocked out or sustaining any injuries or anything like that. Luckily, I
Yeah.
just lost close fights, and they were just better boxers, and that's just how boxing is, man.
Dude, that's how it goes. That's how it goes.
You win
What
some, you lose some.
I
It's all good.
Yeah. Dude, I love that because in baseball, I can only speak from that, but in baseball it's the same thing. Even in the pros on the highest level, sometimes you just get outpitched. These guys are throwing no hitters against professional hitters. And
Yeah, the
sometimes
best
it
in the
just,
world.
yeah, the best in the world. And sometimes it just be like that sometimes. Like
Yeah,
you just got you
100%.
you lost 1-0 and there was, oh well, you
You
know.
got.
Yeah.
That's just how
Exactly.
it is, dude.
Exactly. Dude, what I
Yeah.
what I love about boxing and like a lot of other individual sports, including like tennis and golf and stuff. Like I don't play tennis, but is that it's all individualized. Like I know there's a team of like
Yeah,
people that
yeah,
are surrounding you and you have a coach, but like the effort that you are able to put out is the effort that you're putting in, right? So like
yeah,
the
100%.
whatever ability, whatever you bring into the ring, whatever steps, in front of your opponent is like months of just you individually putting in the work. And like I can
Mhm.
appreciate that totally cuz like there's no excuse. Like in
Yeah,
golf,
100%.
whose fault is it? No one's. It's
There's no
yours.
one.
And
Yeah.
baseball, you can like you got a gazillion people you could blame. The umpire, the coaches, your first baseman, your
The
outfield, the
weather.
pitcher. Yeah, the weather. Oh, that's a great one. Yeah, bad weather. Oh, dude, it's over. Like that's for
It's
sure.
over.
It's the weather's
Yeah,
fault. Yeah. But
exactly.
in boxing, like so how does that like did you catch that like right away? Like, oh man, like I better like, did you ever catch yourself trying to make excuses? Or were
Uh,
you just like always like, oh, I'm honing in on myself or
I always knew that, like, okay, so when I did lose, I knew I did something wrong, if that makes sense. So I always, I'm a big fan of just taking responsibility for what you did, good or bad. And if you did something good and don't take responsibility for it, let someone else do it. And if they recognize you for it, then great. If you did something bad, you're the first person to accept responsibility for it.
yeah.
No, as far as making excuses, I always knew that my coaches did the right thing. I never felt overtrained. I never felt like they were coaching me the wrong way. um no, no, in that sense. And luckily, the record I had at the end was 10-2. But those two losses, I knew that I could have done something better. But I was just so novice to the idea of me not being perfect. uh
Yeah. Yeah, no, yeah.
so so and then but that's the thing. But that's the thing. So to sit here and make excuses, it's like, dude, you're just doing yourself a disservice, because what you're doing when you make this when you make excuses, you're closing the window of being able to get better, and in anything. And my first loss, what I could have done better was push the action a little bit more. I was waiting too much. And in an amateur fight, you only have this much amount of time to prove that you're a better boxer than the other person. That dude took advantage better than I did. My
Yeah.
second fight, same thing. I could have gone forward more, and I didn't. And but that's
Mm.
but so I have to sit here and be like, you know what? My coaches were telling me to go forward, and I didn't. This and it's all me. But when you get a knockout, when you get a dominant performance, you're like, yeah, that was me. That was me.
Hey,
You're like,
stand on
so
top of the ring, like arms
yeah,
stretched
man.
wide.
Oh man, it's funny if so okay, so in boxing, in amateur boxing, it's all sanctioned, right? So it's all there's one organization that doesn't. It's USA Boxing. If you get up on the so let's say you knock somebody out, boom, you just sleep them, boom, and you stand up on the ropes, you can lose. Like dude, they can
Really?
disqualify for that. Yeah, 100%. It's a sport about being a gentleman. You have to be clean shaven. You can't. Okay, so if you come up to the ring, you can't just walk into it. They'll literally say like, nope, like you can't. You have to be invited in. Pretty much saying it's a privilege to box. It's not. You can't just walk in and this is your show. It's not how it works. You have to be invited by the referee. You have to be clean shaven. You have to have your trunks at a certain height, like tucked in. Yeah, very gentlemanly, like, if that makes any sense.
Wow, I had no idea. I didn't know
Yeah.
that like that type of etiquette. So I wasn't even gonna. I forgot all about like Logan Paul and all them. Jake Paul doing what he's doing. Is that like obviously as like a novice of boxing, as someone who's just like a casual watcher, I don't really have any problem with it. But I'm also not a fighter.
Yeah,
But him like wearing that thing on his belt and stuff. Does that like
yeah.
it's
He's
it's
just
annoying. It's disrespectful.
it's one of these things, man, where it's like, that's boxing. You have all kinds of people from all walks of life. It's only disrespectful when it's to you, or if it's to someone,
Yeah.
if it's to your team or something like that, or one of your coaches, and then it's kind of like a jab or a shot. at that person, it's you're like, all right, it can kind of it can rub people the wrong way. But some people, they love it. They love it because it brings more eyes to the sport.
Yeah.
And which this whole Jake Paul and Logan Paul thing, man, I honestly have no problem with it. I have no problem with it. Reason being is because um, they're bringing so many eyes to the sport, man. And people are like, oh, they're not real boxers. They're not this and that. It's like
They're kind of
boxing now.
nice.
Yeah,
I mean,
Jake
I'm
Paul
not
can
the biggest.
box.
I'm not an expert, but they look pretty nice.
Dude, Jake Paul can box, man. To sit here and say that he's just a loser and he's a problem child, it's like, dude, he didn't get if you watch his first fight to his last one, you see drastic changes, man. Drastic
Really.
changes. But the reason why you're seeing those changes is because he's training with guys who are kicking his butt every time. He's not sparring guys that he's beating up, because if that was the case, he's not getting any better. It's like
Yeah,
if you
yeah.
were to play baseball against a T-ball team and you're hitting dingers over the fence every time. And like that doesn't get you any better. So
Yeah.
so to sit here and say that Jake Paul isn't a legit boxer is a little silly. Is a little silly because I see drastic changes in his footwork and his jab. So I'm all for it, man. But once it comes to you calling out like legitimate boxers, that's where I'm kind of just like, that's not a fence you want to cross, man, for sure.
Yeah, and I guess I meant too, like maybe not even disrespectful to individuals, but I guess I meant like, is it disrespectful to like boxing itself? If it is a gentleman's sport, it doesn't always seem like he treats it as such, or either one of
Yeah.
them. But I didn't. That's,
Yeah. In that case, man. But if that's the case, we have to hold everybody to that standard. We have to
yeah,
hold
yeah,
Floyd Mayweather and everybody, and everybody's done all kinds of crazy stuff. But as far as it being, disrespectful to the sport, it's one of these things where it just depends on the person.
yeah,
So
yeah. And I'm kind of with you. Like again, speaking from as a novice to boxing, I can appreciate it, man. I never watched boxing, but I watch those fights.
yeah, but what's
Like
cool?
I go to Leonard and Shuggies and watch those fights.
Yeah. See, but that's what's cool because he talks all this smack, right? He says like, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, I'm gonna get all up in your kitchen, I'm gonna make a meal and bounce. Like, and you're like, what? Like, who is this dude? Like, what? Why is he saying all these things? It makes you want to watch that fight, right? So
Yeah.
it's dude, that's how people make their money now, man. Like you have, I can't sit here and compare Conor McGregor to Jake Paul because Conor McGregor's done a lot more for the combat sports world than Jake Paul
Yeah.
has. But when you have these guys who talk all this smack and they say, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna do that, and they somewhat back it up, dude, it's addictive to the average consumer. And it doesn't even have to be anybody who likes boxing, or like you said, you're kind of getting into it, but it's still, you're just like, man, I wonder what's gonna happen. And people will pay $60 to see what happens. So that's the cool thing. And I'm in that case, I'm on for it.
Yeah, and and I agree because obviously I just like watching, I don't know,
Crazy
celebrities
guy.
fight. Maybe I don't even know. Which brings me to my second question. Which brings me
Yeah,
to
yeah.
like what I was kind of like going at too. I've heard complaints about like judging in the boxing realm. Like,
Mhm.
has that ever been an issue for you? Like the split decisions? Because looking back at Jake Paul's fight, a lot of people thought he lost.
Yeah.
But for me, I'm like, I feel like I don't know if they would have given him a loss because, like you were saying, someone that's undefeated is going to draw. I'm not saying it's rigged. I don't know really what I'm saying, I guess, if I'm not saying that. But, someone that has a loss isn't going to draw as many eyes as someone who's still undefeated,
Exactly.
which I've heard, again, going back to like the split decision, still leaving it inside because you do all this work, right? It's the most it's an individualized sport, right? And then
Yeah.
you do all this work, you go the full 12 rounds, and then you're leaving it up to three people.
3 people.
Do
And
you
this is
do
three
you
opinions.
yeah, three opinions. Now, take yourself out of it, just like looking at it, I guess if you can objectively, do you think like that's should change, or is there any alternatives to that type deal?
No, man. It's the thing is with judges in boxing, it's not really a slippery slope. But okay, so there's in boxing, there's always an A side and there's always a B side. The A side is supposed to win, right? The B side is supposed to lose. They're supposed to go in there, but sometimes you have that B side that comes in and is like, I'm the A side, dude, and if I'm the B side, I'm gonna take out this A side. That's usually how it works. As an A side, there's a guy who's favored to win, and the A side is always usually the guy who comes out last, who walks out last.
Yeah.
So that's kind of the one who's supposed to win. But what I'm saying is, so if we take Canelo Alvarez for instance, he's one of the best boxers in the whole world. If you haven't watched him, YouTube him, Google him, you'll see amazing stuff. Amazing stuff. If he fights somebody and they give him a real good fight, like one that's tough, like it really had to make him dig deep. Chances are they're gonna give it to Canelo Alvarez. Reason being because if you want to become the champion, you either have to knock them out or dominate them. There's no
Yeah.
question. Where there's no I won all 12 rounds and that is that, or I won 9 out of the 12, or 7 out of the 12, whatever it is. You have to sit here and dominate the champ. Whoever the A side is. Thankfully for me, I've never really had to. There's some fights where I was like, that's not a split decision, but whatever. I won. Who cares? A W is a W.
Yeah,
Like what
for
Vin
sure.
Diesel said. It's not whether you win by an inch or a mile. Winning's winning. It's pretty much like that. It's so true. But no, yeah. So thankfully, as far as judging goes, I've never really had any any uh any bad experiences, but I have seen it where it's like, all right, whatever. I'm not the judge, but you guys get paid for that, not me.
Yeah. And I could see where that like could frustrate, some like
Oh,
diehard fans, especially
100%.
especially boxers too. So is like I only say that to say this, like in baseball, I talked to Luis and a bunch of other people, but
Yeah,
you
yeah.
know, um, they're changing so many different things, like having an electronic umpire, pretty much just taking the human element out of things.
Wow, an
Obviously they got
electronic empire.
umpire, yeah, like they got what
What
they'll
the
do is
heck?
the umpire will stand behind the catcher still.
Yeah.
The pitcher will
Uh-huh.
throw it, and then someone up top will relay a message to the umpire in his ear saying ball or strike, and then you'll see the umpire call ball or strike. So it all happens really quickly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's not even him making the decision. It's actually someone up top in the press box seeing it, on the electronic on the screen, and then relaying down to the umpire saying ball or strike. Yeah, it's pretty crazy.
That's a little silly because there's some calls, don't you feel, in baseball that kind of like change the wave of the
Yeah.
game.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're like, there's some
I'm
calls
not
you're
a
just
fan.
like, I think baseball should stay the way it is. The only thing I would change about baseball, and they've actually implemented it, is the fence, the the fence
Oh, that's
on the
just your
baselines,
dad
first and second.
speaking. That's just
That's
your
it.
dad. That's just you as a
they
dad
gotta they
speaking.
gotta stop those. They gotta stop those flying bats. I'm not in favor. It's but when you
Yeah,
see a line drive going to the crowd, the whole crowd's
dude, it
like
scatters. It scatters
scary
like
stuff, man.
no, yeah,
Scary. Mm-mm.
yeah. They started doing that, but so I didn't know if there was like something that boxing could do as well to, but I mean, just
Yeah,
because as a fan, I'm sure it probably frustrates some people when they see like a
again.
split decision and they're
Yeah,
like, "What? How does that?" Like when Manny Pacquiao. Obviously, I know this is such a long fight ago. It shows you like how much I watch boxing, but I remember like Manny Pacquiao was like sitting there against when he fought against Mayweather. And it makes sense now that what you're saying. Like they're not going to give Mayweather a loss if he wasn't being dominated
if
for,
he wasn't being dominated, yeah,
yeah.
and
So I
especially
get that.
if he was controlling the fight the way he does, yeah,
Yeah, and I get that. But when Manny Pacquiao was like, dude, I thought I won. Like,
yeah,
and I'm sure obviously he wasn't alone. I'm sure a lot of people
yeah.
probably
He's
are
got a
like,
whole country
hey,
behind him.
yeah, exactly. Uh, but I didn't know if there was like something that like boxing could change to try and, be a little bit
Kind of,
more
yeah,
objective, maybe, and not so subjective because, like you said, it could
exactly.
sometimes just fall down to opinions.
Yeah, it can, but what's crazy about boxing sometimes? So, for instance, the Canelo and Triple G fight, such a close fight, but I think part of the reason, and I'm not saying just my personal opinion, but I've heard multiple sources that said the reason why they gave that fight a draw is because, like, okay, a third of the world was watching that fight. If we give this fight a draw, if the judges are all looking at each other like, yeah, we're gonna get the biggest second fight boxing has
Yeah,
ever seen, which means money. Nothing creates cash like controversy, and
yeah,
controversy creates cash. So if you have a controversial decision and people are like, "What the heck? Canelo won, Triple G won," and you have all these people going crazy over it, they're like, "Fine, you know what? Let's just fight a second fight." Everybody's looking at the promoters like, "Oh yeah, we're gonna get paid." So in that instance, I think judges are kind of needed. but at the same time, it works in your favor and then it doesn't sometimes.
No, yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, like MMA, I don't know. MMA is it superior
That's
to
a different
boxing?
game.
Because you're a fan of MMA
Oh,
too.
I love it. I love the UFC.
Because
I
dude, I
know a few
remember
guys in the
you.
UFC.
Yeah, I remember you, dude. I never got into MMA really until I moved out here.
Yeah,
Uh, but and it's still hard for me to stay awake because these
it's so
Eastern
late,
time.
dude.
These dude is so late. Like the fights aren't coming on until like 1 o'clock sometimes. It's
Oh
ridiculous.
heck no.
But
Yeah.
MMA, I feel like I don't feel like I ever hear controversy about like, oh, he should have won or they should
Oh
have
yeah,
won.
it's not,
Maybe I don't
especially
know.
if it's at the highest level, dude. These guys aren't, you know. Okay. So one of Dana White's famous quotes. He's the president of the UFC for people who don't know. He says, "Never leave it in the hands of the judges. Like never leave it to up to someone to choose whether or not you're gonna win." But 9 times out of 10, man, any educated fan or any person with eyes can pretty much see, unless they're just silly, unless they're just like, all right, dude, whatever, Craig. But like, no, you can pretty much tell, all right, he won,
Yeah.
they won, this person knows. So I'd say 8 times out of 10, it's pretty, it's the right idea. But sometimes, dude, you're just like, I saw it the other way, but whatever. It's, it is what it is. But the MMA game, dude, is taking over as well. But as far as it being superior to boxing, I'll tell you this. I'll tell you this. Boxers should stay out of the cage, and MMA fighters should stay out of the ring, if that makes any sense. And so,
Yeah.
yeah,
So
no,
Conor
it's
McGregor,
not.
if you're watching this, no, it's fine.
Yeah, no, I don't think he should be fighting any legit boxers, no, because that's not gonna be it's not gonna be a good day.
Yeah, and two, you never really see boxers going into the MMA ring. They're not.
Yeah, not really. It happened once, and it was a travesty. It was not good. It was a former heavyweight champion. His name was James Toney, and he fought a guy named Randy Couture, who is an MMA legend. And he just got ankle picked, and it was bad. The fight was over in the first round, and it should have never happened. But like stuff like that, you're like, what are you doing? But as far as I'll tell you this much, man, MMA is, you have to be good at everything. You have to be.
Yeah,
Imagine playing baseball and being able to be at the highest level at every position:
yeah,
catcher, pitcher, first base, shortstop, second base, everything. That's pretty much what MMA is, man. Is you are the best in the world at this weight class at these things. So so the next time that you see a big fight and you see someone who's the champ at that weight class, whether it's UFC, Bellator, PFL, any of those organizations, you're like, man, like you have to realize, like, this dude, this woman, and I say two genders. There's this transition thing is ridiculous, but there's these guys, these women are the best in the world. So it's like,
yeah,
to see him perform at that level is, it's awesome, man. It's so cool. There's nothing like it.
yeah. Is Nick Diaz done? Nick, you think he's done?
I
He's
don't
gonna come
know.
back?
I don't know. He looked good those first 2 rounds, man, but he just, he's like, we all get older, I guess. But
Yeah, that's the
I,
thing, dude. That's what kind of like impresses too about like some of these guys in MMA, like these big names. Obviously Connor, but Nate Diaz too. I mean, like these guys are still like drawing crowds, and it's like
oh yeah, dude.
these guys are old. Like,
They're getting up there.
I mean,
They're getting up
yeah,
there,
they're
yeah.
not old, obviously, but of course, old in
In the sport.
sports world is like
Yeah.
mid 30s, early 30s. You're like, dude, this guy's
Yeah.
kind of getting a little old. Like, what's going on?
100%. It's funny
Like,
you say, yeah, it's funny you say that. Oh, one of my friends, he's in the UFC. He's like, dude, I'm getting old, man. I'm like, dude, you're 33. And he's like, but I know, but you have these guys who are 25, 26 years old. They have 17 fights. They're from Brazil. They're from Russia. There's these monsters
yeah,
just dominating everybody, and whoever they're fighting. And these guys are going up against these young killers. It's like, it's tough, but sometimes experience is the Achilles heel for that young up and comer. They have 9 or 10 fights, but homeboy, who's you have like these guys who are like Nate Diaz and all these guys, they have 25, 35. They have all this experience. It kind of works out to be a perfect matchup. That's what
Kind
makes
of
these
evens
great
out.
fights so huge. Yeah. So like with Nate Diaz in his last fights against Leon Edwards. Leon Edwards is still a fantastic fighter, but Nate Diaz has been in there for so long. And yeah, he started taking taking a hold of the fight. But that last round, dude, Diaz just cracks him. And it's like if he had a little bit more time, who knows?
Yeah.
Who knows? But yeah, dude, experience versus youth, it makes some great fights sometimes.
Oh, that's true. Is anyone gonna beat Amanda Nunez?
The only person would be her clone. That's it. In my opinion. In my
That's what
opinion, unless
dude,
she
I
fought a
know.
dude.
Again, yeah, but
Dude, she's a
again, like
monster.
as a novice, dude, like I'm watching her fights. I'm like, I'm like looking at Leonard. I'm like, dude, like who are like
Who?
did they think
Brock
about
Lesnar? Who?
yeah, did they think about who they're putting in the ring with her? Like she's just
Oh no,
like woman handling, I guess
it's
it
not fair.
woman handling these people, these girls, bro.
Yeah, don't go
Like
mansplaining now, Aaron. Don't go mansplaining now.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, oh my gosh, dude, it's just insane. Like I'm watching this, I'm like,
Yeah,
who? And then what she have to hold the title in like two different weight classes or?
yeah. So as far as I know, she was the 135-pound champion. Now she's the 145-pound champion. But it's the reason why she fights so rare. No one wants that fight. No one does.
Yeah,
No one.
yeah,
It's like you're. It's one of the hardest fights to take. That's why you see her very. There's no one who.
yeah.
Yeah, the
The
one that could possibly give her. She already fought twice, and she's the champ of a different one. She just fought this weekend. Her name's Valentina Shevchenko. Amazing, amazing. Her name's the Bullet, and she's just a monster. But she's out of a lot of weight class, which there's nothing wrong with. But yeah, dude, Amanda is just amazing, amazing.
she's a
There's
beast, dude.
there's some fun times in MMA right now for sure.
Yeah. So obviously, like we were talking about with like MMA, you're training for so many different things. Like
Yeah,
I'm sure each day is like focusing on one dynamic of fighting, and then the next day you might be on the floor rolling around. But
yeah,
for
yeah.
boxing, what did a day look like for you when you were like training amateur? You still have the mindset of I'm going pro. What did a day of training look like for you?
Honestly, man, for me, it was I always knew I had to get my road work in, and that's running. I always had a new like so there's a morning session and there's an afternoon session, and that's what separates the guys who are gonna make it and the guys who aren't. The guys who are waking up early in the morning, getting their stuff done, and then the guys who are training in the afternoon. So for me, wake up, go. Uh, Usually a run would take around it'd be between 2.5 miles to 3 miles. So it's it's at a good pace. You're not trying to smoke it unless you're in a training camp. Unless you're 8 weeks out, that's when you're hustling. But usually it's a lifestyle. It's a lifestyle. It's like a baseball going to BP. It's just something he does. It's just
Yeah, yeah.
that's just how they operate. So for me, it was always getting my road work in. It was always eating right. So I wake up in the morning, get my run done, go to work. As soon as I came home from work, take a nap. Once I started to get to a level where I was like, man, I'm fighting dudes who have fights, 25, 30 fights under their belt. I realized that resting is a skill. It's a skill. It's not something you just do. You can't just take a nap and sleep for 5 hours. It's not how it works. Resting is a skill. And the way about what I mean by that is a lot of the guys who are at that top level, when they're resting, they're active resting. They're going for walks. They're taking their dog for a run or something like that. They're always doing something. And that's what separates the guys from the top to the guys who boxed at one point. So for me, it was always, like I said, just always getting the road work in. As soon as I got my time to take a nap or go for a walk or something like that, get ready for practice. Once I went to practice, it was always, get my jump rope in. The biggest thing that we focused on was the basics. So anyone out there who's like, I'm trying to get into boxing, but I don't know where to start. My advice to you is, obviously one, join a gym. If you have a local boxing gym in town, in your city or, wherever you're at, join. and see what they offer, but also not just that one gym. Find a gym that you like to be a part of. One that teaches the proper technique. And if you don't, if you're Amish or something like that, but you have access to a smartphone or something like that, there's a world of knowledge on Instagram and YouTube, and there's a bunch of Rex Kwandos out there who kind of know what they're talking about. So
Rex Kwando.
yeah, Rex Kwando, break the wrist, walk. One of my coaches told me that one time. It was funny. Maybe he's all break the
Grab,
wrist, walk away. Break the wrist, walk away. And then
grab
he's
my
all ding,
wrist,
ding, ding.
the other wrist, your other wrist.
Yeah, dude. Oh man. So no, yeah. So that would be my advice to someone who's just starting out is master the basics. Master the basics. The best boxers in the world are the best at the basics. That's it.
What's okay?
There's
So what's
no
some of the basics? What are we talking about?
keeping
Like
your
just like
hands
a
up, just not showing the belly button, keeping the feet apart at all times. Learning how to move. If you're finding someone who's right-handed, you're not going to go to a certain way. You're going to go the opposite way. If you're finding someone who's left-handed, you're going to go to the away from their dominant hand. Stuff like that. And once you start getting, once you start getting your feet wet with that, just master that stuff. Master that stuff. It's like if you're learning how to play baseball, and it's like, I want to hit a home run. It's like, well, you need to learn how to throw a baseball first. It's like,
yeah.
you know what I'm saying? And even it doesn't even have to be anything like, so for me as a person, as I don't like to call myself a personal trainer. I train people how to box, and that's it. So, if I have a client and they come up to me and they're like, yeah, I want to start learning how to box. I want to start losing weight. I want to start doing this and that. It's like, okay, that's fine. But a lot of people, when they start their fitness training, man, I feel like they honestly miss the mark in where they feel like their first day they have to go run 5 miles. It's like, no, dude, I don't need you to do that. I need you to learn how to walk every day. I need you to learn how to I need you to learn how to walk around your neighborhood without me having to tell you. If you can do that, then we'll start. Okay, next month we're gonna start jogging every day. Then we're gonna start running every day. That's what I need you to do. I don't need you because, man, it's funny. I see in my classes and not really with my clients because I don't really put up with that too much. But in my classes, man, I see a lot of people who are not willing to be beginners. And if I go to a shooting range, I've shot guns all my life. But if I've never shot a gun and I go to a shooting range, I'm not gonna be like, yeah, I know how to shoot this thing. Like, no, I'm gonna be like, dude, show me everything. This is my day one. Like, show me everything you know. If you have to hand me a book and I have to read the whole book before you put a gun, that's fine. I'll do it. That's not a problem. I think a lot of the thing nowadays, dude, is people just don't want to be beginners anymore. And it's sad.
Why is that? What? Well, they watch too many movies. They come in
I
just
don't
ready
know.
to like
I don't know. It's a pride
ready to
thing,
like
man. I
take on the
feel
master.
I don't know what it is, man. But for me, it's like I said, with like if it's a client of mine, I tell them from the get go, I said, listen, we're gonna learn the basics. We're gonna learn how to throw a jab, and that's it.
So how do you differ from like a one-on-one client to like a class? So you're able to just do more like one-on-one stuff with them?
Yeah.
Okay.
Both. Yeah.
Because I
So
see
with my classes, usually
your
it's in the
Instagram
work.
posts like so I see your Instagram posts like where you'll be
Yeah.
doing stuff with the class, but it looks like you got it like under control. Like they're following along with everything that you're
Yeah,
doing.
we have to,
So
man, because because if you think about it, it's like, these people, for me, the way I think about it is like these people are taking time out of their day to come spend an hour with me. And the worst thing you can do is waste someone's time. It's literally the worst thing you do, besides killing them, of course. But that's it. But no, but for me, it's like I want to make it worthwhile, and I want to, if I can have someone say, dang, I learned something new today, then I did my job. I'm sure it's the same thing with you in your classroom.
yeah.
Like, if my kids learn one thing today and it's something that's going to help them, then I did my job. So it's the same thing for me. But if it's a one-on-one client and, I ask them, I'm like, okay, like, what do you want to work on outside of what I'm going to teach you? And they're like, all right, I want to learn how to pivot more. I want to learn how to keep my hands more, slip and roll a little bit easier. Like, what are these things? And that's where I break everything down for them. So, but yeah, man, that's a day in the life for me.
I love that. Do you have younger people coming up to you and saying things like, Coach Danny, like I'm being bullied at school and different things like that, like what you were experiencing, or
Yeah, but dude,
different
nowadays
problems?
it's a little bit different. It's a little bit different nowadays because reason being, it's when we were kids, bullying was getting pushed around, and maybe you get a black eye, maybe, right?
Yeah.
Nowadays, it's all done on the internet. It's all done
Yeah.
over.
Yep. Yep.
It's so sad to see. And the thing that sucks, man, is like these kids nowadays. It's different. It's different. So if a kid were to come, and luckily I've never had anyone, and even if they did, if they said, like, someone's bullying me, I'm like, well, like, here's what I would do. I would go up to them and just punch him in the face. I'm just kidding. Don't do that. No, but no, I would just go up to him and just like, listen, man, like, I don't know what I did to you. I don't know. I, I don't know what the situation is, but can we start over? Like, just come on.
Yeah.
I didn't do anything to you. I hope you're not going to do anything more to me. And that's simply what you have to do. But nowadays, man, the bullying's different. So now it just
Yeah.
depends on the situation.
Yeah. And that's true too. Like, being, like you were saying from the beginning, like being humble, having humility,
Really,
is
yeah,
so
yeah, yeah.
key. Is so crucial. That I'm definitely not speaking as someone who has mastered that art and working on that
I,
thing every day.
I, I think the reason why I try to be as humble as I can is because I've been in the ring with this past week. I was in the ring with a guy named Juan Montiel. He's ranked 7 in the world in his division. So there's Canelo, there's Jamal Charlo, the guy that he just fought, 4 more guys, and then him. and
Wow.
and and to even share the ring with him is an honor. It's like, these guys don't just spar anybody. They
Yeah.
invite you. They say, hey, like, would you like to come spar with Juan? Would you like to come? And I'm like, dude, I would love to. And then when you spar this guy and you're like, oh yeah, he's ranked 7 in the world for a reason. Like, this dude is just an animal. So for me, it's like, I always know there's someone bigger. I always know there's someone better. So I can't sit here and say, like, I'm the baddest dude in the world, because I'm lying to everybody in the room. It's you know what I'm saying? It's just,
Yeah.
it
No,
doesn't
I
make any
got you.
sense. I don't get it.
But as far as like welcoming fights too, like what you're saying, just like go up and apologize. I love
Yeah,
that. But
man.
I think
There's no
Jocko, I
there's no
think
need.
Jocko's the one that said it, where he's like, if running is an option, just run. Like, go
Yeah.
away from a fight. Don't try and, because you don't
Yeah,
know if that
dude.
guy has a
Oh
knife. You don't
goodness.
know if he has a gun.
Anything.
Um,
Yeah. But also it shows a form of maturity too, man. It's like the baddest guys in the world the ones that I've sparred against, man, they have nothing to prove. Literally nothing to prove. They're just so laid back, so like, oh, I'm just a normal dude, just like you. But if we put on gloves and we step in the ring, I'm gonna ruin your day. That's just how it goes. But other than that, man, they're just super. I've been fortunate, to run into those types of guys. Not, I haven't. Luckily, I haven't run into any jerks in the boxing world. So,
yeah, sure,
but
sure.
usually the ones who can do something usually never have to.
Do you think Canelo was really being talked trash, or sorry, was being, yeah, his mom was being talked trash about? Because I think that's what he said, right? With it,
I don't
he
know.
said,
So
"Don't talk
so
trash about my mom." Uh,
Yeah. But that's the thing. If you have 2 guys talking smack to each other, you're this, you're that, like, you were ugly last week. Like, so if you're
yeah,
saying all
yeah,
these things, you're saying all these things, and then you have a bunch of cameras in their face, you're only gonna hear that person's side of the story, right? You
yeah,
know what I'm saying? So if,
yeah,
like,
yeah,
so if Canelo was saying, and don't get me wrong, Canelo understands English. He doesn't just speak Spanish. He knows when someone's saying something about his mom. If Caleb Plant was sitting here and saying, I didn't say anything about his mom, who are we to, like, we weren't
yeah, yeah,
there. We weren't in that conversation. So what if Caleb Plant was saying, like, oh, your mom's this and that and ABCD, and that's why he pushed him. So who knows? We weren't there. So that's every time. Yeah, when I hear that, I'm just like, did you think, like, he actually said something? I'm like, he very well possibly could have,
yeah. He
for
probably
sure.
did. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Who
Is
knows?
there
Who knows?
repercussions for him scratching him on the face like that? Like, are gonna?
Dude. So something like that. If it's bad enough, man, it could require surgery. Who knows? It could have, he could have stitches in his eye, and he could, not
Like
be
to
sparring
postpone
for
the
two,
fight,
three
right?
weeks. Yeah,
Yeah,
very well
because
could,
it
man.
will cut
Yeah,
up
it
open.
very
It
well
will cut
can.
open a lot easier, right?
100%,
Yeah,
especially if it's under the eye and he has to get stitches or something like that. Yeah, it could very well postpone the fight. Absolutely.
yeah. Because once, for those that might not know, Canelo was it was like a pregame, or sorry, like just a what's it called, like a publicity for the fight, right? Him and Caleb
Yeah, no, it's a press conference.
press conference. That's what it was.
Yeah, yeah. So usually the way it works, the fight gets announced. There's a press tour, one and they'll go to the cities like of their main demographics. So for instance, like Caleb Plant, I believe he's not from Kansas City. No, I'm sorry, he's from Tennessee. So they'll go to those areas. They'll go to Memphis. They'll go to Chattanooga, wherever it's at. So they'll go to his people, and then the other side they'll go to L.A. They'll go to San Francisco, Texas, Dallas, where all the
Yeah,
Mexicans are. So what they're trying to do, they're trying to get this side of the country on Caleb Plant's side, and this side of the whole world on Canelo's
yeah.
side. So it just depends. So yeah, it's called the press tour. That's what was going on.
Yeah, and so they were talking trash face to face, and Canelo ended up pushing him. And then the dude swung, and Canelo dodged. Man, he's so fast. He
Yeah.
dodged it, and then Canelo threw a fight threw a punch for those that don't know, and he ended up scratching Caleb on the face, on the cheek,
On the
and
face,
but
crazy
so
times.
it's crazy. But hey, I know you got to go. If we can,
No, you're good,
I
man.
just want, what's some things that you learned from boxing? Like what's some disciplines that maybe you picked up? If we're trying to, because I would love for people to maybe pick up the sport. I don't really know any local gyms. I'm sure I could find out, or people could find out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
obviously you're an advocate for it, and so however much time you want, you could just advocate for it. Why is boxing like, something that people should get into, and maybe some lessons
Yeah.
that has taught you.
Honestly, man, boxing it's I'll start off by saying it's not for everybody. It's not. But it
Mhm.
is again, 10 out of I say like 7 out of 10 people will fall in love with boxing at
Yeah,
boxing.
yeah,
It
yeah.
just
I
depends.
hear you.
It just depends.
I hear you.
The reason why I'm so in favor of it, man, is because I know what it's done for me, and I'm very biased against it. The reason why I advocate it for so much, man, because I've seen time and time again, man, for people who, as simple as wanting to lose weight, as simple for wanting to take stress out of a day. We all have stressful jobs. We all have stressful lives, and marriage, kids, and school, and whatever it is. It feels good to hit something, right? For
Yeah,
some people, it
yeah.
may be a golf ball. Sometimes I don't want to hit it back. Sometimes I want to just take I want to take my big Bertha and just and just on right on a Callaway, just swat.
That's
Sometimes, but
facts.
but that's yeah, but for me, it's my always it's always to resort towards the boxing. So when I was growing up, I didn't really have so my dad was in prison. My dad was 8, 9 years old. Well, no, I'm sorry, I was 8, 9 years old when my dad was still in prison. For the longest time, I grew up with a lot of bitterness and anger in my heart because of what was going on with my family and all of this stuff. Boxing gave me like it was like an escape. It really was, because I had all this. I was a crazy kid. I never got into too much trouble. I had energy up the. I was juiced to the gills in energy. Uh, I just had to do something. But boxing was what it was for me. That gave me that constructive high, if you will. Obviously, it's not gonna solve all your problems, but it'll definitely help. It'll definitely get the stress out of your day. But the another reason why I advocate for it so much is because you can always get better. You can
Yeah, yeah.
always and that's in anything. You can always improve. There's no one who's a perfect fighter. There's no one who's a perfect athlete. The reason why the best athletes in the world still have coaches is because they're still trying to learn. They're still trying to get better. They're still trying to get to that next level. And that's what I absolutely love about it for me, is because I can always learn something better. I can always, and even from me coaching, is like from the experience that I have coaches on top of me. So I'm an assistant coach for our team. There's there's a second in command, and then our head coach. Our head coach oversees everything, and I'm learning from him every practice. So and that's something that I absolutely that I became obsessed with. So anybody who's questioning, like, should I get into boxing? I wouldn't say like, oh yeah, you're gonna love it, you're gonna do this and that. I will say, from the experience that I've had, a lot of people find it and they make it their own. They're like, man, I really enjoy this. I really love it. You know, I've seen countless testimonies from people in our gym here in Tucson where, you know, they join and, you know, they start losing weight and then they just become, they're just a totally different person. And you know, on top of the fitness benefits that it has, the emotional and mental benefits that it has, you know, it's all boiled in one. And it's not very expensive. It's not, unless you start taking it to the, you know, sparring everyday level, the $500 headgears, the all that stuff. That's one thing. That's a separate issue. But boxing, it's not for it's not for everybody, but then it is, because it's, you know, it's not that expensive. Like I said, you know, I'm sure someone would love to hit something at some point, you know, hit a bag or hit someone or but man, it's done very little harm for me, and it's done very little harm for people who haven't taken it to a professional level. You know, if you've gone to professional level and you've had to deal with the motors and stuff like that, that's neither here nor there. But if someone's just getting into it, I would just recommend just, you know, learning the basics, stick to those things, never get sick of learning. And that's in anything, not just boxing. It's your job, it's your salvation, that's your schoolwork, whatever it is. Become obsessed with learning and getting better. That's what's gonna help you. But for me, boxing has been nothing but good to me. It's created a life for my wife and my son, and I get to do it every day, and I love every second of it, except getting punched in the face. But so other than that, it's pretty great.
I love that, dude. Yeah, that's like the biggest thing is getting punched, except for almost getting knocked out.
Yeah, that's
Other
not
than
fun.
that,
That's
it's
not
all fun, except for
fun.
almost
Oh,
dying from the seventh ranked man in the world is in boxing.
oh man. But what's funny is like he comes like so after we sparred, I've sparred him 3 times. And man, after to kind of like earn their respect is huge. It's
Yeah.
huge.
Uh-huh.
It's like if you were at BP and I wouldn't say Barry Bonds. Who's a good here? Your guy. If Cody Bellinger came up to you and said, "Dang, dude, nice swing, man," you'd
Oh
be like,
yeah.
"What the heck? Like, dude, like, whoa."
I would be
You'd be on
living
it.
on a high right now.
You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying?
I'd
So
be in the
it's
clouds.
that same thing. It's that same thing, dude. So like for me, when they come up to you like "Eso campeón, chingón, eso," you're like, "Dang, dude, like I can really hang with these dudes," because you know for the longest time I didn't think I could, and then when you get in there, obviously they're taking it easy on me, but for the fact that they're wanting me to help is huge. It's like, dude, I'll take advantage of that any time of the day. So I I I'm in love with what I'm doing right now, man. Very blessed,
Yeah.
very
Uh,
blessed.
yeah, that's so cool. And Shiggy and Elena were saying something about you wanting to start maybe a nonprofit one day in boxing
Yeah, dude,
in
I would
Tucson.
love to. I would love to, and it's and that's something. But you know, like going back to advocating for boxing, I think because it's such a huge topic right now because a lot of the kids on social media, all they see as far as boxing goes. The sad part is that it's not sad, but it kind of is because like okay, so the guy that I sparred, Juan Montiel, he would dominate Jake Paul and Logan Paul together in
Yeah.
one round like
Yeah.
that, just take him out. He's not getting the attention that he deserves. But the reason why I advocate so much towards young ones is because a lot of times nowadays kids don't have constructive stuff that's going on. Yeah, they have school and they have extracurricular activities, whether it be baseball or which is all good stuff. That's awesome, man.
Sure.
That's it.
Yeah.
You know, if you can find that your niche and find that thing that keeps you out of trouble, that's great. But a lot of the kids on our side of the country, I'm sure it's the same thing in Charleston, you know, they have a lot of built up energy, anger, if you will. And a lot of them for us in Tucson, it's a fight town. You know, there's you'll see fights everywhere. So if you can take that and and you can mold it into something that's constructive and something that's going to help the kid learn confidence and be you know have some humility. I don't see why why that's a problem or it ever will be. My biggest thing is just making sure And so on our team, we have a few rules, man. Like you have to be a gentleman, you have to be a lady, you have to be someone like it's the same thing in your walk with God or your walk with, if you represent a church or something like that, you take pride in or even like your baseball team. It's like if you wear a certain jersey, if you represent a certain flag or you represent a certain team or a certain church, you take pride in that. You're like, dude, like
Yeah.
that's like I like, this is my team. Every time I wear a box league shirt, a box league hat, it's like the way that I conduct myself with people or obviously everyone has bad days. I get it, but at the same time, it's like for us, it's like we want these people to turn into good citizens and good people. I think one of the best advices, one of the best pieces of advice that my grandpa ever gave me said, "Be the man a father would want his daughter to marry, but wouldn't want his son to fight. Be that
Mm.
guy. Like
Mm.
if you can be that
Come
guy,
on now.
you're set. You're set."
Yeah,
So
yeah.
if a father looks and like, dang, that's a good dude. I want him for my daughter. And then he sees that you got matched up with his son. He's like, oh crap, like, dude,
Yeah,
no.
yeah, 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 yeah.
So, be that guy. And I'm trying to do that every day. And luckily by the support of my wife, I'm trying to get there. I'm trying to get there.
Dude, I can't give you more praise and it's just what you're doing is so important.
Thank you,
Uh
brother.
because like I'm in the classroom, I see the lack of I don't mean to hate or generalize, but there is definitely a lack of male role models.
Yeah.
Especially in the younger generation where especially in elementary, especially in middle school, a definite lack of male role models for these kids, for these young men growing up. They don't have anyone, whether it's
Yeah, I don't.
in the projects or even in the upper class. It doesn't really matter. If a dad's not there, he's not there. Doesn't matter if you're white,
Yeah.
black, rich, or poor. And
100%.
for someone to find boxing and be able to get counseled, be able to get guided, be able to be imparted wisdom and knowledge and understanding and being taught like how to be a good citizen and how to build your community up
Yeah.
and change your surroundings by changing yourself.
Yep.
Dude, like I can't be a bigger advocate for you
That's
and
all I
what
can
you're
ask for,
doing because it's so important. It's so important right now.
Yeah, man, it is a crazy world we're living in, man. But it's like for us, if we can change one kid's life, like by 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 showing him how to throw a punch and at the right time and the right place, we're doing our job.
Dude, I love it. Bro, I'll let you
Love,
go.
bro.
I
Love you,
appreciate
man. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. I appreciate you coming on. You opened up another can of worms. We could have talked about, your family life and growing up and some of the
Oh,
things that you might have
we
had to
will.
overcome. So we'll have to get a part 2.
No, dude, let's do it. Let me know when. I'm
All right,
here.
bro. All right, everyone.
Later, brother.
I appreciate you guys.
Bye, guys. Thank you so much.